On Capitol Hill, House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy suddenly drops out of the race to try and become House Speaker, sparking a Republican free-for-all now. Hi, everyone. I'm Gretchen Carlson. We are here to bring you the real story. McCarthy stunning everyone, sprinting the announcement today as Republicans gathered behind closed doors to hold a secret vote for the nomination.
We're servants. We should put this conference first. And I think there's something to be said for us to unite. We probably need a fresh face. I'll stay on as Majority Leader. But the one thing I found in talking to everybody, if we are going to unite and be strong, we need a new face to help do that. So nothing more than that. I feel good about the decision. I feel great to have my family here, my colleagues. I think we're only going to be stronger.
Mike Emanuel on Capitol Hill. Mike, busy day for you, so now what?
Well, Gretchen, a statement just out from House Speaker John Boehner, who's due to retire, seemed to be trying to reassure the public that he is willing to stay on in the job until a new speaker is elected. Some members of the Republican conference are floating the idea of perhaps going with a caretaker speaker until they get through the 2016 election and a new Congress can elect a new speaker. Appropriations Chairman Hal Rogers from Kentucky is a name that has been mentioned, as is Minnesota Republican John Klein, who's also being floated as a caretaker, both well respected by their colleagues. As for McCarthy, here is more of his explanation.
I don't want making voting for speaker a tough one. I don't want to go to the floor and win with 220 votes. I think the best thing for our party right now is that you have 247 votes on the floor. If we are going to be strong, we got to be 100% united. And I think, you know what? Conference first.
Two faces that could likely get 218 votes. Ways and Means Chairman Paul Ryan and Benghazi Select Committee Chairman Trey Gowdy have both said they do not want the job, so there is no obvious choice here on Capitol Hill so far, Gretchen.
Okay, so what about any of the other remaining candidates?
Well, House Oversight Chairman Jason Chaffetz is running as an alternative to McCarthy, and he sounded as stunned as anybody by the news.
We have a lot of internal fracturing that's happened, and we need to figure out a way to unite the party. That's what Kevin McCarthy wants to do. It's what I want to do, and I think that's what John Boehner wants to do.
Florida Congressman Daniel Webster is the other announced candidate. He has some conservative support. They said they were lining up behind him, and he's talking about changing the House.
Well, my final pitch is my first pitch, and the first pitch is that I want to transform the way we do business, not have a few people at the top of a pyramid of power make all the decisions, but push down that pyramid of power, spread out the base, so every single member can be effective.
This afternoon, shocker of Kevin McCarthy dropping out of the speaker's race comes as there is some significant deadlines on the horizon, including the debt ceiling in about a month. Gretchen?
Mike Emanuel, thank you. For more on this now, let's go to Congressman Mike Turner, Ohio Republican, who endorsed Kevin McCarthy for Speaker. Representative, great to have you back on The Real Story today. What happened?
Thank you. Well, this certainly is sad news, but I can tell you that the Republican Party is strong. We still have John Boehner with the Speaker's gavel in his hand, and these are so far two individual decisions that we have of the Speaker's to step down and Kevin's to step aside. The Republican conference has yet to speak on who the new leadership will be, but I assure you that work is getting done. As the House moves important legislation that continues to work on funding for 2016.
Okay.
And certainly the important issue of how do we fund national defense.
Well, so Kevin McCarthy seemed to go into this closed-door meeting confident. Reporters asked him, how are you feeling? He said, great. And then the stunning news came that he wanted a fresh face. Who would the fresh face be in his mind?
I don't know, but I certainly supported Kevin. I think he's been a very strong leader. I think he'll continue to be a strong leader in the House. It's unfortunate that he's made this decision, but this is going to have to be a decision that's made by the conference. There has yet to be a vote on who will be the next speaker. We know that candidates certainly will be jockeying and coming forward, and we'll be debating the issues that are important. One of those issues that's important, I know for over 100 of us, is how does this candidate going to approach the issue of funding defense as we come up on deadlines in December.
Okay.
But I think people can look at the House and see we still have a speaker. The House is functioning and the Republican Party here is strong. Now we're going to pick our next speaker.
Okay, listen to this from Kevin McCarthy on Benghazi.
I could have said it much better, but this Benghazi committee was only created for one purpose: to find the truth on behalf of the families for the 4 dead Americans. I should not be a distraction from that.
So do you really believe that it was his ill-fated comments about the Benghazi committee that had everything to do with this decision? Or was it that the Freedom Caucus said that they weren't going to support him? Or was it something else?
I think it's a personal decision of Kevin's. I don't think certainly it wasn't the issue of the Benghazi committee, because everyone knows the Benghazi committee was organized because both the administration and Hillary Clinton have not been forthcoming. It had to be organized so we could get to the bottom of what really happened there. But I think also, another sad aspect of this, when you look at the speaker stepping down, is that, he hasn't had a president that he can work with. We still, even when we get our new speaker, are going to be looking to the White House, and we need a partner to negotiate and to get these bills done and to get legislation signed into law. That's going to take President Obama acting differently, not just the House having a different speaker.
I don't know if you know anything about this letter that was sent out by one of your colleagues, Congressman Walter Jones, Republican of North Carolina, yesterday. It had no relevance at the time, and I have no idea if it has any relevance today, but here's what he said. He urged all candidates for the Speaker of the House to drop out of the race if skeletons in their closet might embarrass the Republican Party. Do you know anything about that letter and why he would have sent it?
No, I don't. I can tell you that, as we look at the debate and really what's happening here, I really do think that this is an issue of trying to get the House conference to move forward in a meaningful way so that we can work with the administration and get the job done here. And I think that's all that's happening. I think the Republican Party here is strong, work's being done, and we need to move on and find our next speaker.
All right. One more thing. There's somebody else who wants this job, and it's Jason Chaffetz, the congressman from Utah. Listen to this.
We'll have those discussions in the coming weeks, but ultimately, we're trying to build consensus here that can get us to the numbers and get us back to the work that we were all elected to do. So we'll continue along those lines.
Would you support Congressman Chaffetz?
I think what Jason said is really important. We need to get the work done, and to do that, you have to get someone who has experience in delivering work. I would look beyond our conference, who have worked very diligently hard, have excellent records of delivering, and I think can pull this conference together. I think work and experience are going to be the top things that we look for, in addition to what is their view on funding defense as we look through 2016.
Congressman Mike Turner, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Joining us now, Chris Wallace, anchor of Fox News Sunday. All right, Chris, this is what you live for, right? I mean, all kinds of big news happening on Capitol Hill. You're really good at this and deciphering what exactly is going on. What's your read on it?
Well, it was really interesting, your interview just now with Mike Turner, because what did he keep saying? That the Republican Party is strong and we're getting things done here. The last thing they want to do is basically admit what is going on, which is that the Republican Party is in complete disarray and they can't figure out who's going to lead the party or if anybody can put together the disparate elements of the party to lead it. And that's why I think it's so crucial over the next 2 or 3 weeks that they find somebody that can paper over the differences, maybe actually solve them, but at least paper them over, get to the 218, get elected speaker. You mentioned the idea of a caretaker, a Hal Rogers or a John Klein. I mean, that would solve your immediate problem, but it certainly doesn't solve the problem. All of these members, all of the Republican and Democrats, all 435 of them are going into election in 2016. They want somebody who can lead the charge, who can sit there and say, we're not responsible for the problems in Washington. It's the president. It's the Democrats, 46 Democrats in the Senate who can filibuster. They need somebody who can make that argument, and it isn't going to be a caretaker.
It's really interesting because it almost seems as if the Speaker's race is sort of a microcosm of the macrocosm of what we're seeing on the GOP side in the presidential race. That voters seem to want this outsider now, somebody different. And now we're seeing that potentially for Speaker of the House as well. I want to read you a statement from the outgoing, soon-to-be outgoing Speaker, John Boehner. Here's what he said. As I have said previously, I will serve as Speaker until the House votes to elect a new Speaker. We will announce the date for this election at a later date. And I'm confident we will elect a new speaker in the coming weeks. Our conference will work together to ensure we have the strongest team possible as we continue to focus on the American people's priorities. I guess what we're learning from that, Chris, is that he's not going to leave them alone. I mean, he's going to stay there for some of these key votes. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly what he's saying. I mean, there are a number of deadlines. The first one is November 5th. less than a month from now, you've got the debt ceiling. And if they don't raise the debt ceiling, whether they make a bargain with the president or not, but if they don't raise the debt ceiling, the country goes into default, which will have a real impact on the economy and the market. So they've got to deal with that. Then, of course, you get to the budget in early December, a government shutdown unless you find a way to deal with that. And Boehner is saying, I'm going to stick around. We're going to continue to do people's business. They don't want turn this into a public relations disaster for Republicans. But they've got to come up with an answer, a significant person who can at least lead the party and take them into the 2016 election and make the argument against President Obama and the Democrats.
Well, it's going to be really hard to find that one person because what happened last night was the Freedom Caucus. 40 members all got behind Daniel Webster of Florida. And here's Jeb Bush on that.
Dan Webster is one of my closest friends in the political process. He is a principle-centered guy. You will never meet as someone with the integrity of Dan Webster. He served as president of the Speaker of the House in the Florida House and was in the state Senate. I worked with him. He's an incredible guy. There'll be others that might emerge as well. I just hope that they stay focused on making sure that people know they're trying to solve problems for people.
And I'm not sure that it was only the Freedom Caucus that made Kevin McCarthy also drop out, because it was only 40 members. But here's what Daniel Webster is saying he wants to do. He wants to spread out the power a little bit more so that every member of the House feels like they have a say. Do you think that suddenly he has more power than he did 24 hours ago?
Well, he certainly has oppositional power, the power, as we've seen, to block Kevin McCarthy. Whether he has the power to get to 218 himself, I'll be honest with you, an awful lot of people here in Washington had never heard of Dan Webster before this week, and the idea that he suddenly would be the Speaker of the House. I mean, strange things have happened. Denny Hastert was a deputy whip when he was suddenly named Speaker, so I suppose it's possible. But I would think that before they head down that road, they're going to see if they can get a better-known name. I know Paul Ryan has said no, but I got to think that they're going to put tremendous pressure on him. He is one of the people that could put together all of the disparate elements in the Republican Party. Trey Gowdy's another. He said no, but they might go back to him.
He's busy with Benghazi. What about, Kathy McMorris Rodgers? She would be the first woman. She's already sitting in a pretty high position. She could also be another name to be tossed around. We will just have to see, Chris. A lot's going to be happening in the next couple of hours and weeks. So we will see you, of course, on Sunday. Thanks much for your analysis.
Thanks, Gretchen.
We will next talk to Congressman Dave Bratt, member of the conservative House Freedom Caucus. Well, they did not support McCarthy. They supported Daniel Webster. So we're going to ask him why. Plus, police say the American airman hailed as a hero for thwarting a terror attack on that French train. He has now been stabbed right here in our own country. The shocking details of this developing story and whether or not he's going to come out of it okay.